Hello, and welcome to Married to Cinema. I'm Brian.
I'm Whitney.
I love movies.
And I don't.
So, in this edition, we're talking about one of my all time favorite films. We're talking about Jim Sharman's 1974 Richard O'Brien musical film, The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, we are. Why don't you give them the plot summary? Because I can't.
Yes, and I feel like almost everyone has seen this film. In fact,
Except me.
When people found out that we were doing this next, their reaction was, "Whitney hasn't seen this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's crazy, right? Especially because she loves musicals."
I adore them.
Yeah, but we've been together this long, and it's an all-time favorite of mine, and I hadn't shown it to her yet. So here we go. The film is about. It opens with the wedding. What's that?
I just realized why it's got the title it's got. That just...
All right. First time for everything.
Hello, I'm very, very behind the ball. All right, continue.
Okay. So this film
Sorry.
opens up with the wedding of a mutual friend of Brad Majors and Janet Weiss. And at the wedding, shout out to Gigi here, who's making a cameo.
Checking the ring light out. Get out of here.
So at the wedding, Brad proposes to Janet, and she says yes. And the two go off to share the great news with Dr. Everett Scott, whose class they met in, and they give him credit for them meeting and their union. And
I'm so sorry.
Gigi really wants to be part of this. She was a big fan of this movie.
So sorry.
But on the way, they get a flat tire, and so they need assistance, and so they stumble upon this, like, Gothic mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And upon coming in, they find out that the owner of the mansion, the master, is arriving home. And he turns out to be this evil transvestite doctor who is in the process of building a man. He's basically playing Dr. Frankenstein, which is why his name is Dr. Frankenfurter. And the two wind up staying there the night as this man is made, and weirdness and shenanigans ensue, and it is a beautiful, amazing, awesome ode to classic, like, 50s horror and sci-fi that wraps itself in a nice rock and roll musical of the 1970s that has a major impact. It holds the record for longest running film of all time due to all the midnight screenings and how much of a cultural phenomenon this film has become. And from there, I mean, we'll talk about spoilers along the way as we go, because they're inevitable. We're not going to give you a spoiler alert on this one, because if you haven't seen the film by this point, well, that's on you. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, just turn off the video and go watch it now.
I mean, I hadn't even seen it, and I knew all the songs. Like, I found myself as we were watching it, like, yeah, I know this, you know what I mean? You know, kind of bopping along. So it's pretty iconic for me to have not seen it and know the music.
Especially because you're a fan of Glee, and Glee had an entire episode.
Glee did have a whole Rocky Horror Picture Show episode.
It's the only episode of Glee I've seen. I watched it just because it was Rocky Horror. And that was when I realized, Glee was not for me.
Okay, next. Continue. I love you.
I love you too. I was opening up the floor for you to start talking about the film and giving your thoughts.
The Glee thing hurt me.
The Glee thing hurt her.
I was a OG Gleek in high school, man. I had the poster, the Rachel and Finn poster, and it was reversible on the other side. It was Quinn and Finn. Anyways, so I digress. So I did not dislike this film. Let me start by saying that. However, it was super hard for me to follow. I am only conventionally intelligent.
She's very smart. It's just with films that stray from the standard narrative, she she sometimes needs a little explaining.
If it was a book, I think I would have followed it no problem.
Yeah, with film, like it was a weird one for her to follow, so I found myself having to explain things.
I didn't grow up on a lot of film. I mean, I grew up on like a very limited amount of things that I was allowed to watch, mostly being like Disney. So it was difficult to follow. However, there were lots of things I really liked. I thought the Frankenfurter character was very well done by Tim Curry. I mean, just first of all, I would never go against that man in a pair of heels. I'll tell you that, because he was like that was crazy. But also just the performance at the end when he's singing the song about how he's going home.
I'm going home. Yep.
That was moving. That was beautiful, and he really embraced that character. Like, I feel like nowadays it might be hard to embrace character like that, let alone in the 70s, right? Is that what you said? Early 70s?
74.
Yeah, so that is just a testament. Also, he's way older than I thought he was. But, yeah, that was crazy. Love the costuming. There were several characters that I really liked. I think my favorite character is Columbia. I like her. She's very dramatic, much like somebody else I know. So, I like that.
Played by Lil Nell Campbell. And it's one of just about everything I love about this film is the entire cast, really. From Barry Bostwick as Brad Majors to Susan Sarandon as Janet Weiss, Jonathan Adams as Dr. Scott, Meatloaf as Eddie, the nephew of Dr. Scott. I love everybody's performance because they really commit to their character, and they know exactly the kind of material they're working with, so they don't try to put on a great performance. Instead, they go for the kind of hammy and silly 1950s B-movie feel.
However, though, nobody halfway does these characters. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they all commit to it.
Even though they're kind of goofy characters. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see what I understand what you're saying, but it's like nobody phoned it in.
Exactly.
It was the performance was really
Patricia
nice.
Quinn as Magenta is like
even
an
though
all-time
he's
crush
like,
of mine.
what's his face was like, I have a weird half-gelled floppy ponytail and I'm gonna shoot you with my pitchfork gun.
Richard O'Brien,
Like,
Riff Raff, he wrote the film and the musical.
Yeah, and he was like, but he was totally serious about it. So it's just, it was good. The whole thing was good. You are a brat. It was all good.
And
So
I love all the songs. Like, there's not a bad song on it. To me, it's all catchy and memorable. Like, back when I used to play guitar a lot, I used to cover the majority of the soundtrack. I will note, actually, also, for this review, we viewed the US version because I knew that this would be a weirder one for her and probably, and as I was right, probably harder for her to follow. So I knew the UK version has the superheroes song at the end, which then kind of adds a little more of a existential angle to it, which is kind of weird and philosophical at the end there. So I decided to just kind of make it easier and just go with the US cut.
So, and then from the perspective of someone that has a theater degree, a minor in theater, not a real theater degree, there were some things that bothered me a little bit on the musical side, but then I realized that as we got into it, like, they were conscious choices. For example, the Transylvanians that are dancing when the movie first got going and they enter the mansion and da-da-da, right? For you, Frankenfurter. Yeah, that's the song. I was like, these people are out of sync. Like, you know, it's a chorus line. It's a group of, it's an ensemble. And I was like, these people are super out of sync. And then I was like, oh, wait, I think that's on purpose. And then in this edition of Whitney's Incorrect Predictions, I definitely thought there was going to be, like, a drug angle at first. Because in that first scene, when they're all dancing, waiting, and he's about to come home, they're doing the time warp, and I was like, what? Like, what? I was like, what is this? They're on drugs. I was sure that was going to be the answer. Then it was like, no, but here's a song about a smooth, was it smooth transvestite?
Sweet transvestite.
Sweet transvestite. And I was like, oh, no drugs, just Tim Curry and, like, leather.
Just Tim Curry being sexy
Yeah.
as fuck.
Yeah, like what the heck?
He brings it.
Yeah, like...
I don't care your sexuality or anything. Tim Curry is sexy as hell in this movie.
I mean, yeah. It was...
And this is one of the sexiest films I've ever seen. Just this whole movie just oozes, just like... It's all about, like, ultimate pleasure is what the film's about.
50 in the pool at the end, like...
There's all kinds of crazy sex in this movie.
But
none of it's graphic or anything. It's very tame. Like, the only time you actually see, like, any kind of nudity is towards the end when Columbia, Lil Mel Campbell, is dancing and you see her nipples poke up from her corset. It's the only time you see any nudity in it.
Didn't even catch that.
I've seen this film so many times, so naturally I've caught that.
I want to talk about the Medusa Ray.
I was gonna say, what do you think about the Medusa Ray?
It was like, yes, clearly this film is going this direction, and I thought it was gonna come down to they would all turn on Frankenfurter because he was so jealous and manipulative and, you know, kind of skeezy. And then...
It sounds like she was expecting this to be more like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
I
think that's the movie she thought this was going to be. Like, very much so. If you took her expectation of what this film was, that's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, written by Roger Ebert.
Well, I thought that's what was going to happen, and then he was like, bam, Medusa Ray, like, now you're all statues. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
turns into
Like...
Medusa Ray turns them
And
straight to
then
stone.
when they were reanimated, I guess, they were all like, no, we love you. And I was like, what? Like, you just go from, like...
They're kind of brainwashed into this whole
I
this
mean,
whole
I
show
guess
for a while.
if I found out Homeboy could turn me into a statue and then he turned me back, I'd be like, heck yeah, let's do some burlesque too. Like, please don't turn me back into a statue.
That whole performance. The whole performance they do is great.
It was cool. I mean...
And the four of them get their own little solo.
Visually very stunning.
Everything about this film is stunning to me. Like, even how... you probably didn't notice this, but if you watch the film... Again, I don't know how many times any of the viewers have seen it, but if you go back and watch it, you'll notice during the wedding scene that the man marrying Ralph and Betty Habshat is played by Tim Curry, and that the caretakers at the chapel are Richard O'Brien and Patricia O'Quinn.
I caught that, but I didn't catch Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
I didn't catch him, but I caught the caretakers. Janet, like, why did they do that? Like, that bothered me a little bit, but...
It's just, I think it's just them mocking, like, the whole old people sound. Janet.
Well, you know, and here's the other thing about this movie. I believe that any production worth seeing you should see live when it comes to musicals. Or plays, really. And that's part of the reason I never went out of my way to see this, because I was like, no, I'll see it live somewhere, then I'll go watch them. You know what I mean? But please don't bite me because I won't pet you. That's not nice. But I, never saw it being performed anywhere.
Actually, that actually brings me to an interesting point. I've never seen a performance of this film, and might I add, this is my second favorite film of all time. I have actually seen this film more times than any other movie in history. I don't know how many times I've watched it, probably about 100 at this point. But I've also never seen this on the big screen. So all these performances where people dress up and they throw the rice, they have the whole party favors and that kind of thing, I have never actually seen that firsthand. I've only seen the recordings that have been made of that and put on the DVDs and shown on TV and whatnot. But I've never seen this on the big screen and done the whole full Rocky Horror experience, which a lot of people think is pretty weird. But yeah, fun fact. I mean, like I said, I've seen it pre-recorded that way, and honestly, I just prefer just watching the movie and basking in its great glow and its fun visuals. And like another funny thing about the opening wedding scene is if you watch, like, there's a shot where you can catch the boom mic come into frame, which is also always fun to look at every time I watch it. Like I said, I've seen this film so many times. So
Who wants to do a Zoom performance of the Rocky Horror Picture Show? JK. Just kidding. That's a lot. That's a lot. But I am inspired to do a little bit of makeup now.
this film's inspiring.
Visually very beautiful.
Did you have a favorite song from the movie?
I liked Hot Patootie.
Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul,
Hot
Meatloaf
Patootie,
track.
Bless my soul.
That was my favorite when I first saw it too.
Fucking roll.
That was what turned me on to Meatloaf, and still to this day, like I appreciate Meatloaf. You know, Bad Out of Hell, Volume 2, both great albums. But maybe like this is my favorite
I'm
favorite
sorry.
thing he's done. What were you thinking of?
How lazy do you have to be? Bad Out of Hell. Bad Out of Hell Part 2. Like, it's just seems
It's the
very
follow-up.
lazy. I don't know. I didn't realize that was a thing.
What
It
about
just-
Justin Timberlake doing 2 2020 Experience albums?
That is different
the
because
same
it's
thing.
Justin Timberlake. That's different.
But it's Meatloaf. Without Meatloaf, you wouldn't have people like Justin Timberlake.
Okay, if Meatloaf and Justin Timberlake were both available for you to meet, who would you meet?
Probably Meatloaf because he was in Rocky Horror. Like I love
Ew,
Justin Timberlake,
no.
but I mean, come on. I would do anything for
I
love,
have
but
a
I won't do that.
puppet of Justin Timberlake from that music video.
Yeah, but Meatloaf is an icon. Like he predates Timberlake by 20 years.
Well, that's cute. I would go to Justin Timberlake. So
I'm just saying, like Bad Out of Hell and Bad Out of Hell 2. Like that's what you're criticizing here.
I don't know.
Is
It's
that-
just
That happens all the time. They're called companion albums. That's
You're a
very
companion
common
album.
in music. God.
fine. You're a
Especially with
companion
interesting
album.
musicians like Timberlake and Meatloaf. Regardless, we're getting way off
Sorry.
point. This is about Rocky Horror and Hop Tootie Bless My Soul, which is a great
Opportunity,
track.
Bless my soul.
Really
The
love that rock and roll.
That was beautiful. Also, the time warp is good.
Time Warp, Sweet Transvestite.
Homeboy on the
iconic.
desk during Time Warp got me. Like the old grandpa professor
Oh, the criminologist?
Yeah.
It's just a jump to the left.
Yes, Professor McNarrator Pants. He was
Yep,
funny.
Charles
like,
Gray is the criminologist. Yep.
I prefer Professor McNarrator Pants, but you do you.
I will go by the official name.
I will-
Okay. Yeah, my personal favorite of this is Science Fiction Double Feature, the opening song.
With the lips.
Yep. With the lips. I love that song.
Oh,
Had to match it for the review. I just had to. But that has always been my favorite. It's such a beautiful tribute to 50s B movies.
RuPaul would appreciate those lips. There's always a bunch of lip syncing
I'm
things.
pretty
on-
sure RuPaul is greatly influenced by this. Like, the majority of the drag queen community is heavily influenced by this film.
I can see the
Like, that's why-
correlation.
That's why they did the TV live broadcast of this years ago, and they had Laverne Cox play Frankenfurter.
Oh,
Yeah, and Adam Lambert played Eddie. I forget who else was in
Wow.
Oh, Tim Curry played the criminologist.
why are you screaming? I would like to see that.
I've heard not great things, but I will watch it. I never did watch it because
Who
of
plays
the
Susan
reactions.
Sarandon, I wonder.
I'm not sure. All I know is Tim Curry's the criminologist, Adam Lambert is Eddie, and Laverne Cox is Frankenfurter.
Cool. Yeah, should we rate it?
We can gladly rate it. What would you give it?
I would give it I think I would give it a 9.
Wow, I think your
Yeah.
opinion on this has grown
I
in
didn't
the last
dislike it.
30 minutes.
I
It's
didn't
clearly,
dislike it. It's just,
yeah.
it was confusing, but I see so many. It's not a 10 for me because it didn't piece together well, in my opinion. But it had so many nice elements, I feel like I'd have to give it a 9.
Would you watch it again? Maybe
With
you
with a gap, period.
Okay, maybe that would help it piece together for you
Maybe.
on that road to a 10.
A lot of times if I sleep on it, I get it better. So,
Well,
what
I'm
about
glad
you?
you gave it a 9. I would give this a perfect 10. First time on the show's history, I give this film a perfect score, 10 out of 10. I love everything about it. You can point out like little flaws about the film, for example, the boom mic that I referred to earlier, but to me that's all what makes it fun. This is that part of cinema that you don't necessarily have to take too seriously like you would with other films I adore, but I think this is a blast, and it just hits on all notes. It is just this beautiful amalgamation of all styles of like sexy, erotic, drama, comedy, musical, horror, sci-fi, and it's a great homage to B movies from the 50s. I love everything about this movie, and I there's nothing bad I could say about it. So, do you have anything else to add to this? The alien angle, maybe?
The alien angle. Yeah, that was weird. That part was a little.
It took her a little while to quite grasp that the entire time Riff Raff, Magenta, and Frank and
Yeah.
Freddy were aliens.
Yeah.
Even though it kind of says that early on when he says he's from transsexual Transylvania.
I thought he was just being clever. Like, I thought that was just wordplay.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, what a wordsmith. I did not realize.
Transylvania. And that's what I love. It's like the spin with Transylvania, because normally it's referred to as like, oh, the place where vampires are from, and like it's been used comedically for like Transylvania 65000 with Jeff Goldblum. But in this, they're like, what if Transylvania was another planet, since he can't find that shit on the globe, and there's a globe even heavily featured in the film to kind of, I guess, even hint at that more. And I think that's clever, and there's a lot of clever bits in this film that I really appreciate, like the dinner scene with Meatloaf, where they're eating meatloaf. But
well, yeah,
Rocky Horror Picture Show, guys. I
watch it.
Definitely, without doubt. Now it is time to pick our next film. So if you did not catch our last episode, we are starting a new method for picking out films, where we each draw a series of choices, like 3 drama, 3 comedy, 3 horror, 3 sci-fi, etc. And we put them in a bag. And then the other will pick out a choice to view from the other person's suggestion. So last week she picked from my bag, and that's why we reviewed Rocky Horror.
This week, Brian gets to pick from my bag, and I know he's not nearly as excited.
So here we go. So before I reveal what this is, I would like to express the interesting angle to this film. So for the longest time, as a kid growing up, watching films and documenting every film I'd see in this little notebook, I would make sure that I would view every film in its entirety before I would write it down that I have seen it. And I did that and sat through some really bad movies. Until one movie, which is the first film I ever turned off because I hated it so much. But this just goes to show you can't escape death more than once. On this next episode, we will be viewing White Chicks, the Wayans Brothers movie. And
you said comedies! Yay! I'm so excited! It's so funny!
I love the Wayans Brothers. Like, the first 2 scary movies and Don't Be a Menace to South Central, I think are the funniest parody movies, some of the funniest parody movies ever made. Even like Keenan and Ivory doing I'm Gonna Get You Sucker was brilliant, but White Chicks was the first time where I was like, man, fuck the Wayans Brothers. That was the first Wayans movie where I'm like,
Listen.
But maybe that'll change. A lot has happened in, 16 years since that film came out?
Oh, you want to talk about mothers. I can't wait. So he told me, he said, write down 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this, and you just picked your first of the 3 comedies. And I am so excited because I think this movie is freaking hilarious because I just do. So I can't wait.
Maybe I will turn around on it. That is entirely possible. My taste has changed very much since then. So
Yay!
We'll see. We'll find out. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'd also like to add, check out the channel Jay vs. Horror.
Yes.
My buddy Jay runs that, and he just started up a series that I'm featured on called Video Nasty Nightmares, where we go through and cover all the video nasties. We just did our first episode last night, so
really?
definitely check that out. That's been a lot of fun. Check out the other things on his channel. It's a lot of fun. Be sure and like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And, get ready for this White Chicks review next time. This will be an interesting one.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.